Right. Well, hello and welcome to ACG Austin, San Antonio's monthly lunchtime virtual meeting. It's great to be connecting with many of you again. I'm Corey Huffman, account executive at Cato & Cato and president of the Austin San Antonio chapter. And I will say that today we have a really cool program lined up for you, something that we're calling Texodus, or maybe as we pronounce it around these parts, Texodus. The ongoing saga of corporate America's great Texas migration. I mean, we've all heard about these fantastic companies who are moving to Texas from all over the place, but I'm not sure if you ever stopped and wondered why, but we did. And rather than make some assumptions, we just felt it'd be great to put together a panel of experts and hear from them. So these are folks that have either relocated their companies here to Texas or folks that have consulted with those who are considering a move. Now, before we get to the good stuff, I would like to acknowledge our annual sponsors. Oh, see if I can get this to work for us. There we go. So annual sponsors, Weaver, Dykema, Insperity, and Hire Better. And what I will say is that, these companies have been with us and helped us out through some pretty tough times in our chapter. And I know they can help you in your business as well. So seek these folks out. It's definitely worth a conversation. Now, last thing before we get started, big news here. So we have some upcoming events. So be sure to put these on your calendar and join us. These are in-person events. So on August 4th, we are going to have a members only pre-awards social. And that's going to be at 5:30 at the Hyatt Regency in Austin. And if you're not familiar with the Growth and Spotlight Awards, it's something we do as a way to recognize local companies who have had some fantastic growth. To nominate companies, it's a really simple process. You click on this link, you answer about 5 or 6 different things, and they'll be categorized based on the annual growth for the year. And it basically gives them an opportunity to be recognized and to be awarded as, for a growth award. The last day to submit nominations is this Friday, July 30th. So please take some time to do that. And then on September 9th, we will be getting back together at the Austin Country Club at 11:30 to acknowledge the winners. So fantastic opportunity in August and September in Austin. And then here in San Antonio, August 31st, we're going to have our first in-person lunch since February of 2020. So that's big news. Join us. We'll be meeting at 11:30 at Fleming's at the Quarry, and Brett Piat is going to be helping us understand what in the cyber world is going on. It seems like we can't go a week without hearing something that's going on. So he's going to help us sort that out and understand what's happening in the cyber world. All right, let's get to it. Now, in the interest of time, I won't introduce our panelists. You can read more about them on our website. We have their bio information there. But as you can see, we provide a little bit of information on their in the background here. But what I'd ask is for the panelists, if you could just take 30 to 45 seconds when you're speaking, just give us a brief introduction, tell us a little bit about your company. That would be great. And then for the folks in attendance, we will save some time at the end for questions and answers. So feel free to submit some questions through the comment box, and we'll do our best to come back around those. So with that, Kim, would you mind maybe leading us out?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Fassetta. I'm with AfterShokz. We make these really handy open ear headphones that I'm wearing right now. We've been in Austin now for almost 2 years, which is kind of amazing. But the company's about 10 years old, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But my first question is over to Terri, who also moved her organization to Texas. And we're just curious if Terri can share with us what the single greatest motivator was for relocating here to Texas, and just drawing from your company experience and your thought process behind it, that sort of thing.
First of all, I'd like to introduce my company, OW Lee Company. We manufacture high-end outdoor patio furniture. We are a 75-year-old company. We were founded in Pasadena, California by my grandfather, OW. We made the decision we were founded in 1945 and made the decision to move to Texas in 2019. So we were in California a long time. So you asked me what was our single greatest motivator for moving. There probably wasn't a single greatest motivator. There were many great motivators. One, we were running out of room in California to do manufacturing. We make patio furniture. It's a large commodity, and we were just out of room, and we did not particularly want to have the money to or want to reinvest in California real estate at the time. So we started looking. Another motivator was just the business climate that continued to hit our bottom line in California. And we started looking around to see where we could do better in that regard and stay competitive nationally. Another motivator, quite frankly, was just quality of life. I was born and raised in California. My parents were born and raised in California. My grandparents weren't born in California, but they raised their kids there. And it just seemed like our quality of life kept on diminishing into a little smaller and smaller nucleus of areas where we could go without being in traffic and, encountering things that maybe we wouldn't want our children to have to encounter. And as we moved along, then we targeted Texas as the state that we thought would be the best state for our company and our employees and our families. So those were kind of the motivators.
Had you ever been to Texas before?
Well, ironically, my grandfather, OW, was born in Brownsville. Is that down by the coast, just south of San Antonio?
Okay.
And so, and our largest customer base, our largest customers were located in Texas. So yes, I've been to Texas many times.
Okay. Awesome. Anybody else want to comment on that stuff?
Matt, you're
There we go. Sorry about that. The perils of video conferencing. I can chime in. My name is Matt Silvers. I'm with a relatively new office in Austin, Texas, called PMA Project Management Advisors. PMA has been around for a while, about 35 years. They're based in Chicago, and they have multiple offices, mainly on the coasts and then in Chicago. And PMA decided to open up an office in Austin because of all the businesses that are flowing into Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston, and wanted to essentially establish a toehold in the marketplace. So it actually followed two major technology clients into the marketplace to service their needs and then ultimately establish its own office in the market. So it was entirely based upon commerce, the flow of business, and the presence of these other businesses coming into primarily the Central Texas marketplace. PMA is an owner's rep construction and project management company, and so obviously there's an awful lot of activity in these markets, and it made an awful lot of sense to establish a presence here because of companies like OW deciding to pop up their tent here. So that's my contribution.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of this. I've been seeing this for probably the last 10 years. YTEXAS, we're essentially a welcome wagon for companies that are moving into the state. We've got kind of a presence around the state. We're meeting and seeing a lot of these companies and individuals that are moving here. And, I would say it really depends on the industry, at least what I'm seeing. It depends on the industry and then of course the company. And we kind of narrowed it down to three things. We call it community, commerce, and culture. The community piece is, look, there are 50 Fortune 500 companies here, about 95 Fortune 1000 companies. So companies are getting closer to either their vendors or suppliers, or potential clients for sure. We have over 29 million people that live in the state of Texas. So if you're selling these, or you're selling furniture, if you're selling anything, it's a big market. And we all know it's a big state, but it takes about 3-4 hours to get to pretty much any major city and region in the state. So I think that's definitely a factor. The commerce piece is there's a lot of innovation. Austin's the epicenter of that innovation. I think people are seeing that there are a lot of cool things happening here, and a lot of innovative things happening. They want to get in front of that. And we have a very diverse economy as well. So I think whether it's healthcare or education, it's across the board. And then culture is probably the biggest piece, I think, and it's all about people. Austin's a great place to live. So is Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. But people are enamored with this Texas culture. And I think when they come here, they realize it's a great thing. And I believe, again, depending on the company, it's a variety of those things. But I'll put this back to you, Kim, because you made the move. So you tell us what your motivators were.
Yeah, I mean, as this along the lines of what Terri was saying, it was many motivators, not just one. The company was founded in Syracuse, New York, which long story behind that, but one of the earlier owners resided there, so that's where we sort of set up shop, and over time we sort of outgrew our space, and we moved a couple of times, and then realized we continued to outgrow the space, and then we couldn't find the right people to help our business grow, and some of the right businesses. And so that's really what started the thought process. And it sort of helped that I was already out here in Texas. I worked remote from the onset of the organization. So I was a big proponent for come down to Texas. It's beautiful here. And, you know, all the lifestyle and that kind of thing. And so of course, talent was a huge deal. And the opportunity for a complete lifestyle change for some of these folks who, I mean, we have a very young organization that loves to be outdoors and, you know, just sort of experience the environment, and there wasn't as much of that in Syracuse, New York. It's beautiful for a couple months of the year, but not the way Texas is. So those were a lot of our motivating factors, and really just being amongst other businesses, like huge, great, you know, companies and growing organizations, both in technology and lots of other verticals. So that was our sort of driver, really, and it was an easy decision. And then just as a follow-up to this, Terri, I'm going to volley back to you about, you know, how has this changed your company culture moving from California to Texas? Oop, honey, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. It's been interesting. There's been a major change in our company culture, which quite honestly has been a little hard to manage. We're new to moving. We moved our factory, our first day that we moved out of California, started moving our heavy equipment, was the first day of the big freeze in Texas. So we had a heck of a
perfect timing.
Our equipment over here and hoping it got here. We had 35 employees move with us. We typically have about 200 employees when we were in California. We have about 154 right now. And the California employees and the Texas employees are learning to work together. It's a very different type of culture. But we're working through it. We've hired some new managers here in Texas that they're bringing new ideas, and we're making changes. And as you make changes with the people that were with you versus the new people, there's always a little bit of turmoil that occurs in the whole process. So it's had a major impact on our company culture. We've got 4 people out of our 35 that moved back to California, unfortunately. But you know what? You've got to expect that. Sometimes these people are away from their families. We're in a kind of a rural area. It's called Comfort, which is about 30 miles north of San Antonio off of Interstate 10. And it's just a different way of life. Personally, I love it. But we're working through it. We are experiencing a little bit of the clash of the cultures.
I hear that. You know, we ran into some of those same things. The folks that we've onboarded here once we moved, which we did a lot of that through Hire Better, sort of shameless plug there. But I mean, most were transplants as well. So I think that, you know, that sort of helped us as we developed our workforce here, because lots of people weren't necessarily, they were also new to the area versus, you know, the ones that came down from Syracuse. So it sort of made the blending work out really well. I think the one positive I've seen, just, I mean, it's in everybody's faces, in their skin, in their eyes, like they're outdoors more and they're doing things like in the environment, which, you know, is just something that wasn't happening in general up when the company was based up north. And I'm from New Jersey, and I love the East Coast, and certainly not trying to downplay that in any way, but I've just seen such a positive, like, I mean, active lifestyle vibe, and, you know, folks just like really enjoying themselves. Everyone's got a pet now, and that sort of thing, which is just more the culture of Austin, the vibe of Austin. So
So it turns out that people like swimming in Barton Springs more than snowshoeing.
yes, that I believe that's what's happening.
Yeah, who knew?
Now, don't talk about snow in Texas, Matt. But no, I think the culture piece, Kim, I mean, when I first met you, that was the first thing that stood out to me, is that the culture of the organization really blended in with Austin quickly. And I would say
Yeah.
for some companies, maybe it's not that easy because maybe they didn't think about it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to be fair, we had the folks that moved from Syracuse to Austin were largely younger. We did have some families, but everybody was very interested in change and embracing a new sort of adventure. So that really helped.
Good.
Awesome. And Terri, I think it kicks over to you for the next.
Okay, so we'll go to the next question. So prior to making or considering the move to Texas, what were your company's greatest challenges that moving to Texas would arguably fix? Examples might be funding, supply chain, logistics issues, or even customer base. And I'll put this question to Kim since she picked on me first last time.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a couple of things. Number one, the access to talent. This was pre-pandemic, and so our culture was very much in the office and sort of everyone be together in one hub. And we found it increasingly hard to find the right people in the Syracuse greater area. Even though Syracuse University had a great school, as we started to need more experienced talent, we had trouble finding that. And when we were outsourcing here and there, we realized that, you know, maybe this isn't the place for us. So that's number one. And then real number two was being within a vicinity of companies that would be customers for us. So while we're a D2C brand largely, or started off that way, we knew we were moving into the B2B communication market, and that there were just a host of companies here that would be great potential clients for, you know, outfitting their workforces with headsets like the one I'm talking on. So that was a huge driver for us as well.
I must remark that the clarity of your headset is pretty amazing, because you sound the clearest of all of us. And right up there with you, because he's got the same headset.
Yeah.
I think for us, it was definitely chasing a customer base. There's just so much real estate development going on in Central Texas. As I mentioned before, PMA is a Chicago-based company, and we were competing for project Central Texas market and not winning as regularly as we ordinarily would. And so being able to follow a couple of customers to the marketplace to get those projects, but then use that as an opportunity to establish a foothold here and ultimately continue to chase more and more customers coming into the marketplace because we had a physical presence in the market was kind of the magic ingredient. So we're a little different because we maintain multiple offices, but the justification for creating the Austin office was 100%. It was all about the customer base.
Yeah, what I'm seeing, it's all about people. In the economic development world, it used to be all about location. It was the location, the facility, the land, and of course that's important. But people is number one. Talent is number one. There's not even a close second right now. I think what makes Austin and Texas attractive for that is, I mean, look, the talent is here, but if it's not here, how easy is it to get somebody to move to Austin? It's like that. So a little more expensive to move them here, but it is easy to get them here, where I think in other states and other cities, it may be a little more of a sales pitch to get them to move to the region. You know, Kim, I think you touched on most of what we see. I think being close to business clients, as I had mentioned earlier, the Fortune 500 companies, if you think about Oracle and Apple and Google and Tesla and Toyota and all these big companies, we all want to do business with them. I mean, it's, and they're right, you know, in earshot. You know, a couple things I've been seeing are just the ramp up period. I think people are overwhelmed with how much competition is here, how many people are here, how enjoyable it is to be here. And I think they're, especially during COVID, just kind of overwhelmed with all of the opportunities in front of them. And I think communicating that to the employees and the board, sometimes the board has high expectations and you're like, hold on a minute, we just got here. We're just trying to figure out the lay of the land. And then I'd probably say supply chain for some industries, and Terri, I have to imagine it's for yours, that's huge, being located essentially throughout the United States, being able to get to Mexico, of course, Europe and Asia relatively easily because we're in the middle of the state. I mean, look what Amazon's doing. You know, they're infiltrating the entire state of Texas for a reason. It's that supply chain and the people that live here. So, but I will kick that to you, Terri, because I'm sure that was a big part of your decision.
Yeah, it was. Logistics was important. We felt like we could open up. You know, we're not a tech company. We are manufacturing product. So, and it's heavy product, and so it's expensive to ship, and it's got to go by truckload or LTL carrier. So it gave us an offer, will give us an opportunity to open up our customer base more heavily on the East Coast. The other thing is, as an American manufacturer, we don't do a lot of importing, maybe a few components here and there, but we manufacture everything here in the US. So the logistics of getting supplies in and shipping it out was a major contributing factor for our choice of Texas.
Terri, how are you seeing the costs? I mean, of course, we're known as a low-cost state to do business, but there are some things that are a little more expensive. What are some of the things on that side you saw?
Well, you know, globally, everything is going up. Every supply you want to talk about. Specifically to Texas, utilities, for example, are so much more reasonable. Gas, housing, that kind of thing. The biggest thing that we've found that we probably thought would be a little bit different are our wages. I don't think that there's a big giant difference in the wage that we need to pay here in Texas versus the wage that we need to pay in California. And right now with it being an employee's market in where we're at, the wages are just going up and up and up and up. So I would say, and then the other thing is the land. I mean, we were able to take the money that we got that we sold 157,000 square feet and buy 412,000 square feet here in Texas, which will afford us the ability to grow our business, hopefully for future generations to come.
Kim, from your perspective, given that Syracuse is what I would call a modestly sized market, Austin is large compared to Syracuse. How did you all look at and assimilate both the cost of labor and cost of living, which I would imagine was pretty different from Syracuse?
Yeah, it both have gone up quite a bit, obviously. Yeah, I think our rent in Syracuse was something much closer to my mortgage, where the place that we're in now in the Domain is like 20 times that or something. But we thought about that stuff, but just felt that overall the other benefits outweighed those costs. So it just sort of shook out for us in the end.
Yeah, I just thought that would be an interesting perspective because we always talk about people coming from California, from New York, from large expensive markets, San Francisco, LA, etc. And yours is a unique circumstance because you're coming from a smaller market going to Austin because it will do certain things for your company, for your brand. But it's kind of an interesting twist on the age-old tale of large city companies coming to Austin to kind of reposition themselves.
Yeah, we are saving in other ways though, like where some costs have gone up, like our operating expenses and that sort of thing, our shipping costs have gone down. So we have a couple of different facilities across the United States where we ship from now, which, everything was basically coming out of Northeast New York for years. So now we've sort of diversified that a bit, and lots of stuff comes much more central, which helps. Travel helps a bit too. Just it's easier to get to lots more places from Austin or San Antonio or Dallas or Houston than Syracuse.
Right.
Really.
I'm curious. So you're in New York is a big state too, actually, not even close to Texas, but Syracuse is far from New York, and then you've got DC. And how was that an issue?
Yeah, I mean, it was just sort of its little island. It was, there was nothing that was close to Syracuse at all. So
And I think that's what.
Go ahead.
That's what people take for granted is in Texas, you've got 4 of the top 10 cities within 3-hour drive of each other. And that's got to be a benefit.
No, that's absolutely. And we don't do it, now looking back at our D2C business, the driving to like New York which was, 3.5, 4 hours, or Philadelphia or anything like that was never really came up because we're serving consumers directly, mostly either through retail, Best Buy, or our website or Amazon. But now that we're working with B2B customers and wanting to be in front of them, that drivability to those 4 major cities is a big deal. And I mean, the ones in Austin alone would keep us busy for a year, but then just being able to, sort of scooch around real closely is going to be a huge benefit to us.
So I have a follow-up question. We're all in Texas. I mean, we've got 2 employees left in California, but our headquarters is in Texas, and all of our people are in Texas. All your other businesses, are your headquarters located in Texas? And if not, or if so, does it make, or do you have remote workers, or how big of a deal is it to have your headquarters located in the state of Texas?
Who's that question for?
Oh, you.
Okay. You asked, you got it. I think it's a commitment on behalf of the company. We even talked about this, I think, in the preparing for this call today. The culture of the organization starts at the headquarters and it filters down throughout the entire company. And if the headquarters is here and most of the employees are here, it just makes it so much easier for the company to be connected. If the headquarters is in another state and the majority of your employees are here, which is very common in Texas, a lot of companies have more employees here than any other state, but they still have the headquarters in another state for whatever reason. I just see the cultural disconnect. And then of course, just depending on the type of business and your revenue streams, being in a state where we do not have any corporate income tax, we've got other taxes. Sometimes it's beneficial to move the headquarters here from there. But I've always talked about cost being the biggest cost savings is for the individual, the employees. It's so much less expensive to live here than anywhere else. It's very difficult to compete with that. And if the majority of your costs and the majority of your assets are employees, and they're here and they're happy and they can buy a house and drive to work within, 15, 20 minutes, that's probably the biggest concern. But I do think the headquarters being here for most industries is pretty important.
Ed, you're starting to already answer the question that I was going to pose, and I was going to pose it to you. So let's just keep talking about this. What is it that Texas, above and beyond what you're talking about now, what is it that Texas has created that overall it makes it such an attractive choice, especially when you do compare it to traditional hubs like San Francisco, LA, possibly New York? What's the secret sauce? And kind of putting a twist on it, what is both similar and different about places like Austin and Dallas, San Antonio, to cities that would be competing for that business? You hear about Nashville a lot, you hear about Denver a lot, even say Raleigh, Research Triangle, Orlando. So I'll shut up and let you talk, but kind of a two-headed question there for you.
Yeah, the two parts of the question. I think the economic development model in Texas it's a bottom up approach to incentives and economic development, which means most of the incentives or most of the financial incentives or even the recruiting starts at the city level and the community level, and then it moves its way up to the state level. Other states, it's very top down. So, the governor or the state economic development organization will go out and recruit companies. In Texas, boots are on the ground in every single city, and you guys see it. And it makes it for a highly competitive, sometimes highly fragmented process. But the cities are very aggressive in saying, hey, you need to come to Cedar Park because we have this and we have that. Fly in, check us out. People come in, they look, they tour around, they go, oh my gosh, this is great. They go back, they tell their friends, their clients, their suppliers move here. So the economic development model in Texas is better than any other state because it's just very, very aggressive. I moved here in 1993 from New York, and I was young. I didn't have a business or anything, but the one thing over the last 28 or so years that I've been here that just still ceases to amaze me is the collaborative, welcoming community where your direct competitor will call you up and say, hey, what can I do to help you? And you're like, what? That's insane. That just doesn't happen in any other states. I know Kim has experienced that. Terri, you will experience that. I know you just got here, but I truly believe that it's this community, even though Dallas and Austin, Houston, San Antonio have this little fun, football taco contest. They're really all in it together. They help each other out. And I feel that's the secret sauce in Texas, the people, the companies, the culture, and it just reverberates throughout the state. I will say though, the Research Triangle and others, Nashville, they're all very competitive. They're great cities. Depending if you're in biotech, or you're in financial services, the Research Triangle is fantastic. And so we have formidable competitors out there, no doubt about it. But I still, I think the culture here in Texas is what keeps us together.
I hear a lot about kind of the Nashville is Austin North or Austin is Nashville South. There seems to be quite a rivalry that is building between the two cities, and they are very similar in many respects. Culturally, they each have their own a twist on the music scene. They're similar in size. Their economies are similarly structured in many respects. Obviously, Austin's much more tech forward than Nashville is, but Nashville's no slouch. Any thoughts on Nashville specifically?
There's just nothing else around it. So again, Austin, you could be in Mexico in 4 hours and use the port of Houston, the port of Corpus Christi to get products in and out. So I mean, Kim, I'm sure that's got to be a big reason why you guys are able to get product in and out of the state. And same
Yeah.
thing would go for other parts of the state. We're just too close to other metropolis cities.
So for all of you from Knoxville and Memphis on the call, I apologize in advance. I know you're kind of close to Nashville. Our apologies. No offense intended.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful out there, but this offers a lot more versatility.
Yeah,
Sorry.
from our perspective, establishing ourselves in Austin, from day one, we were a regional office, and we expect to be as busy in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio as we are in Austin. It's because of the fact that all these major cities are so close together, and it's a web, and it creates a web of business opportunities.
Maybe it's as simple as it just comes down to brisket and Shinerbach beer versus hot chicken sandwiches. I'm not sure.
I still want to know what a football taco is. I got to try that.
I mean, Terri, what have you seen?
Well, I mean, we didn't really look anywhere further than Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, just for the proximity of where our shipping lanes are and where our customers are. The main attraction that we had to this area is probably more personal in nature. We looked at some places up in other parts of Texas that could have worked for us, and maybe it would have worked better. We don't know. But we just like the culture here for the future of our families and our employees' families, the schools, the community, the activities, the people. It's just the right place for us to grow our business. That's kind of how we approached it.
So Ed, just to follow up and close out on this line of questioning, to be fair and objective, you could say that Texas has done so much to attract business. Case in point, Kim's and Terry's businesses being here in Texas. But to what extent is it that the states that they're moving from haven't necessarily lived up to the expectation of the companies that are operating there? Is it more what Texas has done, or is it more about what these other states and or municipalities have not done, or some combination of the two? What's your opinion?
Well, now it's both. It used to be a pull, and now it's a push and a pull. And I think the pandemic created that, unfortunately. Some cities, not the way they approached the pandemic, but I think the pandemic just got us all thinking about many different aspects of our life, whether it's our job or where we're headquartered or other things, where they had time to sit around and think and say, why the heck am I here? Well, where do I want to go? Texas has always been, I'm biased, but it's always been on the back of people's minds. When I talk to people, what made you made the move? I always wanted to go there. I always heard about it. And then during the pandemic, I had a little more time and I said, let me go ahead and do it. So, and then the regulatory environment in Texas is much more favorable to many industries. And fortunately for us, but I just think unfortunate for us as citizens, some of the states are proverbially pushing people out, and the regulations are making it very difficult for them to succeed, and they're coming here. So I think it's a benefit. I think it's a push and a pull right now. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. If the pushing stops in other states, then I think people will stay. I mean, look, I talk to people that move here from San Diego. I'm like, why would you move from San Diego? It's beautiful. And it's usually financial. So if those if those states figure it out, I think people will think twice about moving to Texas. But I want to push that back to Kim though, too, because I know that, well, you deal with clients all over the state, all over the country. I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, in general, I think that just having more places to live too was a big factor. Like, I mean, in upstate New York, it was all sort of like the same kind of and environment, really. And here we've got city, we've got country, we've got things that are in between, and that was a huge draw in general. So. I'm not sure if that totally answered your question, but I was just sort of thinking about like the values for the people, and why, they would want to be here, and why our organizations would want to, try to offer that opportunity to employees.
Yeah. Well, and Terry, you were probably in a situation where there maybe was a little push and a pull.
There was a push, and honestly, it just, we kept on seeing what was going on with our bottom line. And we wanted an opportunity to grow and not have it be cost prohibitive for us to grow. And then the incentives that the state presented to us and the local county presented to us, they were very aggressive in providing us with different options that would help us get over those first 5 years of transitional expense and get ourselves up and running and shipping. They've been more than welcoming to us as a company in trying to get us involved in different trade organizations and city organizations and functions. So they welcomed us with open arms. Whereas where we came from, honestly, I got a call 1 week ago from the city, I think it was one of the state representative's offices. They didn't even know we had moved. They didn't even know it. And so I feel like I feel like a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And it feels good.
Yeah, and that goes back to the economic development model. I could promise you, if someone announced that they were moving from Austin, they would get tackled by the chamber or by the economic development organization, right? I mean, they're like, whoa, where are you going? And in other states, I just don't think they're paying attention to it. And I think that's part of the pro-business mindset.
And if there's a state that should be paying attention to it, it's probably California. They're losing everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, look, I'll, Matt, do you want me to close it out here with that last question, or
Yeah, go for it.
You want to expand on that?
No, I think we're good. You can fire away.
Okay, good. I think for Kim and Terry, I mean, what advice do you have for people that are going to be eventually doing what you already did? And I'll start with you, Terry.
Okay, so we're still in the midst of it. We're far from stabilized. We've been shipping out of Texas for about 3 months now, and each month gets better and better. I would say for us, because we are so reliant on labor, is to make sure that you understand how valuable your existing labor is. We're a 75-year-old company. We had people working for us for 30 years plus, that these were artisans and craftsmen and trade skills that are not so easy to find these days. So I would, if somebody was going to make a big move, take a little bit more of a harder look at replacing the skills that your employees have if you need to. One of the other things I would do is I probably would have been more aggressive in getting more people to relocate with us. I'm not sure we were as aggressive as we could have been. And in California, they've got something called a post-term workers' comp. And we've been slammed with it because these attorneys go out and solicit these employees. And it's just, if I would have known about that in hindsight, I would have been more aggressive that way. The other thing I think I would have looked at a little bit is have some local supervision and management in place sooner. And then we bought a building, we purchased a big building here. And if anybody's gonna go out and purchase a building in a rural place, make sure you do your due diligence. Because, you know, I think we cheapened out a little bit on the due diligence and had some surprises in the transition. And living out in the country is way different, or working out in the country is way different than working in Ontario, California, where they have a lot of rules and regulations that maybe aren't adhered to so much in other areas. So just all around, do your due diligence before you make the move, because there can be some pretty expensive surprises that come up.
As an aside, it's not on topic at all, but as a reformed attorney and as someone who's in the real estate development business, everything begins and ends with due diligence. So I would wholeheartedly endorse that. Spend the money on due diligence. Do your homework.
It's true. A lot of moving parts. Kim?
Yeah, I think I would add, you know, find a really great commercial real estate agent to help you sort of find the right space for you. I was already based here. I live about an hour outside of Austin, but I still didn't know all the opportunities and all the little places that we could end up. And so it was really helpful having somebody that we could trust and, you know, that just had our best interests in mind. Absolutely call the Chamber of Commerce, call YTEXAS. I mean, we met YTEXAS sort of late in the game, but it's really helpful to be able to network and learn from other people's experiences. Just those connections have helped us, you know, even further develop since we've planted here. And then I would say absolutely partner with an organization that can help you build out your workforce and work with you to develop that talent. We were fortunate, and I mean, we worked with several different agencies over the course of the move, but we're fortunate enough to really forge a partnership with Higher Better and really loved them for what they did, and they helped us quite a bit and still do now. So I would say those things made the transition much smoother. It's, you know, once you make that choice, it's hard to, you think you can, you know, sort of do all this stuff yourself or ask around and it'll all work out, but it's just best to have like a sort of a tool belt of trusted resources.
Well, and I'd say to the service providers, don't underestimate your value to these companies that are moving here. They have so many things
Right. We don't
on
even
their
know.
shoulders. You don't even know, and you don't know the people. So I don't need to say this, people in Austin. I mean, everybody helps each other out, and I think that's what makes it a special place. But Kim, you know, the first thing that you said to me, seriously, one of the first things you said when I asked you, you know, what are you looking to do here locally? You said give back to the community, which of course blends in very well with Austin and San Antonio. I do want you to share a couple of examples of what you did, because I thought they were pretty creative. You're on mute.
Oh man, I'm usually pretty good about that. So yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're really excited about is our intern program. It's something that we always had in our hearts based on, we are initially being literally in the backyard of Syracuse University, which is an amazing school, but never really developed it. And just getting here, I mean, it was as simple as YTEXAS and Ed making a connection to some universities here so we could create an intern program. And it was, I mean, relatively seamless for us. I mean, these schools were looking for organizations like ours that wanted to, you know, connect with some of their upcoming graduates. And I mean, we're actually just closing out our first semester, our first group of it was a 10-week summer internship program, and it was awesome. And so I mean, that was one of the things that and truly, I mean, it wasn't even a lot of work for us because everybody was so friendly and everybody wanted to help us kind of create this, so we didn't have to do a lot of it ourselves, which was helpful.
Yeah, it's not common for a company to move here to say we want to give back. They're usually like, look, I need this, I need that. So I thought that was, it definitely describes the culture of the organization for sure.
Yeah, and by the way, the interns were, I mean, the reason we wanted to do the internship program was because I, had several internships when I was in college, and it helped me determine what I wanted to do with my life. And, I mean, if I had, one of my internships was at Morgan Stanley, and if I had become a financial advisor, we'd have a lot of people in a lot of trouble. So, I mean, I'm glad I did that internship because I learned, what I wasn't good at. But I mean, in our group now, it's allowed our up and coming managers to teach and sort of, it's helped them become better managers to be able to share some of the things that they've learned with these kids coming out of school looking for jobs. And yeah, it's just been really fun to watch. So.
Well, that's good. Well, Matt, you're the financial advisor. I hope you could advise us the right way, but there's a lot to this, and I'd like your take, whether it's the real estate side, the legal side.
Yeah, happy to. I guess the simple takeaway is if you really are serious about doing business in Texas, it's better to be in Texas. You have to have a physical presence here, and the fact that we have been able to grow as quickly as we have is a testament to what's going on across the state by and large. This office, PMA's local Austin office, has been it was announced, I think, last March. So it's barely been open a year, and we're already spreading out, looking at opportunities in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and even smaller markets. I'm determined to do something in El Paso. No one ever talks about El Paso. I know it's clear across the state, but it's Texas. It's a great place to do business. But I'd say overall, Texas is the size of the Texas economy dwarfs most countries in the world. It's just a massive, massive economy, and it's growing faster than just about any other economy. So I think the corollary question is why wouldn't you want to be here? Why wouldn't you want to be doing business here? That's at least how I look at it. And we certainly are happy to be here and looking to grow aggressively, and obviously would love to help others who are affiliated with ACG grow their presence in the market.
Well, Corey, that's a good closing remark, huh?
No doubt. No doubt. Well, Kim, Terri, Matt, Ed, thank you all so much. That was a great conversation. Learned a ton from that. So really, really appreciate your insight and your time. So thank you again. And for the rest of us, just as a quick reminder, if you have time to stick around, we will have an opportunity to network. So we'll go into smaller breakout rooms so we can do that. But before we do that too, just wanted to remind you, if you have a chance to nominate 2 to 3 companies for growth awards, it's a fantastic way to let companies in our community know we're thinking about them and appreciate them. So again, very simple process. So look into that. And then you saw, or hopefully you saw the events that are calendared for the next 45 days. Join us for at least one of those. Love to meet in person and just get caught up. So really appreciate you. And other than that, stick around for networking, and we'll see you soon.